look at all that money, yeah, the money that they've spent. Take another look and take some time for hemp. Don't cut trees for paper, 'cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp.
Yes, it is. It is time for hemp. Thank you for tuning in to the big broadcast today. I am your host, Casper Leach, and we hope that you share us with your friends. And please don't forget, anytime you hear the word joint on the big broadcast, we ask that you hit your pipes, your bongs, and your vaporizers and take time for hemp. But I know my joint hosts also enjoy being part of the joint broadcast. That's why we got our token Canadian joint host, Al Graham, who's been busy working on the Pace Radio Network. Hey, Al.
How you doing, Casper?
Groovy. Why don't you tell people about the Pace Radio Network?
All right. Well, the Pace Network can be found at paceradio.net. We feature cannabis as well as psychedelic programming, and we air stuff 7 days a week. And just so you know, Time for Hemp airs there every Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern.
And people can always find good content, new content around the clock. I love it.
Yes, exactly. And talking about finding good content, I know that my fellow joint host, Al Byrne, he's got some great content and information all about medical cannabis, and I'm going to let you guys tell him all about it.
And he did it in this groovy book, right, Al?
Hi, guys. Yes, it's a groovy book, and Casper, I don't have to hold it up because Casper always does that for me, and that's very considerate, Casper. Thank you very much. I wrote the book. It's a good book. It's 360 pages long. It's about medical cannabis. Essentially, how did medical cannabis come about in our modern world? It didn't just happen. And so I wanted it to be understood that there were a lot of people involved. There was a lot of risk involved, and the times they have changed, and we have witnessed a big change from when I started. That book started 40 years ago till today. A lot of people have been involved in that changeover, and we got a guest today that was very integral to that changeover, not necessarily medical cannabis, but he dabbled in it, and not necessarily veterans issue, which is another forte of mine, but they did some work on it, and that's Hard Times Magazine, which was a groundbreaking journal of the times that introduced to the American public in general, especially the younger generations, the whole concept of cannabis and the different cultures that used it and the different uses that it had. And it was a well-presented magazine for decades. And one of the guys that presented it for decades is our next guest, and we'll bring him on, please, Al. That's Malcolm MacKinnon, a.k.a. Dan Skye.
Hey, welcome.
Really appreciate being back on the show.
We love having you as a guest.
You guys do a great job.
We enjoyed it. Dan Skye, you see that down there. Dan was the fictional but real editor of High Times. Is that what you were, or the publisher or something?
I was the editor-in-chief in my last few years during my 25-year tenure with the magazine. I published my first shot in 1989, and my last, I was published all the way up until 2022. I did the cover on Dennis Perrone, his posthumous cover. So I was published in 5 decades. So if I were Gordie, I'm the Gordie Howe of High Times when you get down to it. 5 decades I was published in.
I know the answer to this question, but everybody else out there does not. Why Dan Skye?
Well, I was coaching Little League at the time, and I didn't want people to see my name at the time. Then one day I was on the news, and everybody I was on the local news in New York City, and all these managers came to me and said, "Are you Malcolm MacKinnon or Dan. I guess it's the cat's out of the bag, but I kept the name Dan Skye. So it was just. I was also being published at the same time in Hemp Times, which I was the editor of, which was a sister magazine of High Times, and so at the time. So goes back to the 90s when we didn't want hemp to be associated with pot smoking. Right. It's absolutely silly because the people who would be buying hemp are the pot smokers. Right. So, but anyway, Hemp Times lasted from 96 to 2000. And so the powers that be wanted me to have two separate entities, High Times and Hemp Times, because I was writing for both.
Mm.
Wow. That's interesting. I worked in Virginia with the head of the Virginia state legislature. Right. He was out of Charlottesville, nice guy. Mitch Van Years was his name. Mm-hmm. And Marilyn and I were doing work on a medical cannabis issue right there in Charlottesville, UVA. Uh-huh. And we had a private conversation with him when he was the boss. And that's just what he said. He said, listen, man, I am all for what you guys are doing. Do it. This medical thing's important. But please don't mess it up with hemp.
Well, one of the funniest things that happened to me was I interviewed Merle Haggard. I was in his studio up where in Northern California. So I was interviewing him there. And so when we started the interview, he said, "Now listen, I don't want anything to do with pot. This is all about him. I'm talking about the words. I'm talking about him." I said, "No problem, Merle, no problem." Next thing he does is picks up his pipe, loads it up, and starts smoking while he's doing the hemp interview. So.
Yeah, it's a strange world we grew up in, wasn't it, Malcolm? Well, anyway, so let's just get it over with. Right now, you have this incredible background as a journalist, as a photographer, High Times expert. High Times has now been reincarnated in some form.
Yeah, well,
are you up on that?
Yeah, but somewhat. The first reincarnation ended early this year. The company was completely bankrupt. They had tons of bills, a lot of legal proceedings against them. And so they finally went out of business. The business was bought by Josh Kesselring, who is the owner of Raw Papers. He bought the magazine for about $3.5 million. At the time, 6, 7, 8 years ago, they said that it was worth $60 million. So you can see how they completely trashed it. So it's a brand new company. They have the High Times brand. I don't think they're going to be publishing too many issues. Number one, because of the cost, but also because people don't really read magazines anymore. Right. There are niche magazines out there that do well. And marijuana used to be a niche, but now how many magazines are there out there covering marijuana? And they have all these local magazines as well who are covering the local scenes. So, it's going to be a tough road. They still own the Cannabis Cup. I think they probably expect to make some money off that. And the High Times brand does have some cachet, but it's certainly not the magazine or the company that I was involved with, we were really on the cutting edge and we were doing dangerous things. And we were supported by Michael Kennedy, our owner our legal counsel, part owner for 40 years, who kept us out of trouble. And believe me, the government came after High Times a number of times. Number one, with the Green Merchant episode, that was in 1990-91 when they started subpoenaing UPS records to find out who bought hydroponic equipment. So they were saying anybody who bought hydroponic equipment, they got visits from the DEA. And so basically they were going after High Times advertisers. And then it happened again in 2004, I believe, with Operation Pipe Headhunter and Operation Pipe Dreams, put up by John Ashcroft, put that thing into motion and tried to shut down the glass industry. Good luck with that. So you lost a lot of advertisers right there. But they say, I remember John Ashcroft saying at the time, that we have completely dismantled the paraphernalia industry. You're like, absolutely, yes. So
but along the way, they were trying to dismantle you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anything to stop High Times from publishing.
Exactly. That was all just to knock down the kingpin there. And, well, the four of us all remember those days, and they were dangerous days. There was jail time. There was serious fines. It was legal fees. It was not a fun time. But
I remember when I had. I remember when I had Steve Bloom on as a guest in 1991. He was one of the first video guests that I had, and he spoke about Operation Green Merchant, and it was quite a big ordeal, especially for that time of the era. Yeah. And you're right, journalism has really taken a hit in a lot of ways, courtesy of the internet. I know I have unsuccessfully tried to get my newsletter going forward, even put it out for free, download it, print it out yourself. Yeah. People don't read, so if it's not audio or video, it gets overlooked. And you have what I guess, like me, an old-fashioned medium where it's pictures. Yeah. And how do you find new avenues to get your material out? Because you got a lot of great pictures of a lot of wonderful people that were involved in the cannabis movement, and a lot of great locations as well.
I start my book off this. I published my book, Pot Shots: The Journey of a High Times Photographer. I remember I started off the book with this line, which comes from The Real West, which was a series on the History Channel. In the past, you'll hear an Indian saying, "In the past, that is now gone forever." And that's how I feel about what we all went through around 2017, 2018, when I left High Times. Everything seemed to be going extremely corporate. And, it's not what we grew up with. We were outlaws. High Times was an outlaw magazine. It's no longer an outlaw magazine. We're not outlaws anymore. But the growers, the dealers, the journalists, we were all outlaws. So, that's what I think has changed. And you think about it, the politicians still don't understand the value of cannabis. What industry has been taxed like this? I just read that, Michigan's governor, Gretchen Whitmer, is, put a 25% tax on the dispensaries and stuff. Once again, doing this crazy stuff where Gavin Newsom has just done the opposite, reducing the tax. What industry, fledgling industry, is taxed like this? They don't understand. There is money to be made in volume. I mean, it's just so greedy and misunderstanding of the entire industry. People will go back, they will grow their own. They don't need this, So
yeah. We're taxed on it up here in Canada.
Yeah.
Heavily as well. Yeah.
They destroyed, Colorado's industry. It's trying to get off the ground. 2014, 26% tax total. I mean, come on. The overhead for running a dispensary or running a grow facility is astronomical.
One of the things that blows my mind too about getting a dispensary is that some states have what they call a lottery, and you got to pay a good amount of money just to get into the lottery to get your license. And if you're not picked, you don't get your money back.
It's a racket. It really is. It's disgusting. It really is. This is not what we were talking about when we wanted to mainstream cannabis. That's for sure.
Right.
No.
But exactly. As I said about High Times, I mean, I was very, very blessed. I got there, like I said, in 1989, did my first shots, and I saw the entire evolution of the cannabis movement and met so many of the icons, photographed so many of them, and all of the celebrities who really wanted to jump on board. And, and that took me into a lot of different areas, from the Indian reservations to Amsterdam, Canada, down to Mexico, Jamaica, all of these places. The cannabis took me all over the place. I mean, it was very generous of you to say at the beginning, they said, I did a lot for the movement. And I said, no, man, I covered the people. I covered the movement. I didn't do it. People were the ones who were putting their lives on their lines, whether it's a hemp store, a grow, a dealer, everybody was putting their livelihoods on the line. So that's how things have changed for me.
Well, and I know that you've got to have the same type of reflection as other people, as you and I, who joined the movement at the time when it began and sat on the front lines. We were just doing our job, but we were just hanging out with the everyday people, doing everyday things, trying to end laws that needed to be ended, and change and start organizations and start. It wasn't until I became 100 years old I looked back and realized all those people were true heroes, and all those people were doing remarkable things.
Oh man!
Yes. And I had quite an opportunity to meet so many amazing people. And the hemp family is so huge and full of love.
Sure is. Well, you have the education of the people. You have the politicians. You have to convince that hemp or whatever is a good thing. You have the rallies back in the 90s. All of these different rallies trying to get people on board. I remember in '96 when I was doing Hemp Times. I was in Breckenridge, visiting a hemp store there for a story I was doing, and these people came in and said, "Man, if you buy this stuff, they're going to report you to the FBI right away." That's how crazy it was back then, So, it's a bygone era. Is all I can say. Everything
Absolutely.
is changed, and but there are important areas that have to be addressed. I remember Valerie Corral, who ran WHAM, who runs WHAM in Santa Cruz. She said the real value of marijuana is its ability to heal, and so people like Al Byrne, are doing that because they know the value of cannabis, how it's beneficial to veterans, and the fact that there's any kind of resistance to it at all is at this point ludicrous.
Well, and that's another aspect of the type of work you and I do. When people ask me to speak somewhere about cannabis or about hemp, I tell them, don't ask me, ask the experts that I've interviewed, because like Al Byrne, he's written a book and founded an organization and dealt with doctors. And there's been people like Jack Hare, who started an organization and wrote a book.
Yeah. And
I was just blessed to be able to put a spotlight on all those people to raise their voice.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite
and Malcolm took their pictures. I think he took everybody's picture but me. I'm pretty sure that's true. But the other thing I just want to bring up right now, though, is that as this show is being taped and recorded, it's going to go to Colorado State University's library system for archive purposes because it's a special collection. And so what is going to happen here, and one of the reasons we have Malcolm on, he's been here before, he's a great guest, he's a great guest now, but we want his photos, which you're going to see, also included in that archive.
Yes, great.
But I guess the point I'm trying to make is there's a lot of interview shows. This is one of them, but it's probably the only one in America that is being transferred immediately to a university so people can study what we just said. And in this case, they're going to be able to look at Malcolm's photos from all over the country, Jamaica, wherever the hell he was. And let's go there, because Malcolm MacKinnon Photography is the webpage stuff. The book, as you see, there it is. Pot Shots just went away. It's coming back. And Malcolm, what Al Graham is going to pick up some photos here and throw them on the screen. Okay,
oh, that's great.
And if you could tell us how, when, where, who, whatever you can about the photo, that'd be. I think our audience would like that.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, yeah, it's great. I mean, I was the most published photographer in High Times history, so I have thousands of photos. So
well, you have a very rich history too. I mean, it's diverse. It isn't like you just photographed all politicians or all penguins. You photographed so many different people, lifestyles, and so you have a very rich history.
Yeah, but the other thing, Malcolm took the pictures, but then he could write about it. It could explain what
that was double barreled there. I mean, I first started, I'm just as a photographer, but I as I say, I minored in journalism at Marquette University. I knew how to write. I was a good writer. And so I realized if I want to get my photos published, I'm going to have to write. And so I didn't really expect to make this High Times my career, but just the way it worked out, to be able to be published in a national magazine is absolutely a great, great thrill. Every time I got published, I just got a thrill. I mean, it's just the best.
Funny how that works out. I know Al Graham didn't expect to end up being this involved as a cannabis journalist, and I know I sure didn't. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah, exactly.
It creeps up on you.
Yeah.
I hated English in school, and I ended up getting a couple hundred articles published. So you just never know. Okay, now talking about photos. This picture may or may not include a celebrity, but we are all lovers of these. And this first photo
yes, indeed. That was, he wouldn't look at the bud. finally we had that. His owner held up some little treat behind the bud. That's great. Blue-eyed dog. It was great. A great farm.
Yes.
Oh, that's a great dog picture. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. We're all dog lovers, and
Yeah,
the
that's
eyes.
cool.
Yeah, the eyes.
Great dog.
Is what I picked out on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Next we've got. We're gonna head to California with this photo.
Alrighty.
Woohoo!
Here it comes. We'll see what we got here.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
All surprised to me. Oh yeah, well that was taken on Black Sands Beach on the Pacific Ocean, which is the very edge of Humboldt County.
Wow.
So I got up there into the rocks and got this great background. And Dennis Hopper, who was also the actor, who was also a great photographer, he said what really makes photos is background. And I kind of always adhered to that principle. And here I am, shoreline and back. That was a high time centerfold.
Did you get to smoke anything in that bowl when you were done with the photo shoot?
They're so generous. I used to go home. I used to, people would give me half a pound. And I took it, man. I went through, I figured out how to sneak it through in my luggage, but I did it.
Okay, we've gone from the water and the sandy beaches, and now we're heading out to the desert.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cooking with cannabis.
Yeah, that was a sunset in Arizona, and I was looking. The grower showed me her buds, and I said, "Oh my God, I got to shoot these." And so I just grabbed this pan and ran out, and it was right before the sun completely set. So I was real lucky. I always called that fried in the desert. So
Yes, yeah, appropriately named, I would say.
Yeah.
Well, she knew what she was doing. Wow.
Was that Christy? Was that Christy?
No, I wasn't Christy. That was somebody way up in the mountains in Tucson.
All right.
Okay, now I know when I was a kid, and I'm sure Casper and Al would, remember the Tonka toys. Everybody loved the Tonka toys. They were actually steel. They weren't plastic.
I had a few.
Yep.
Yeah. There they are. And they lasted.
Yeah, I went out to Red Rock Canyon early in the morning. I bought these two trucks at Walmart the night before. Took them out there and set up this shot. It was difficult to do. I don't know what got into me to do it. I'll tell you though, there was a lot of breeze that morning, and I lost a lot of pot. It was a very expensive shoot.
Wow.
That looks pretty cool because with the background that's there yet again, highlight the background.
I call this one Stone Quarry.
Yes.
Great name.
Yeah, really.
No, it cost $300 worth of pot. I remember the dealer was not happy. I said, "We'll pay for it."
And back in the day, $300 was quite a big chunk of money.
Yeah,
Damn straight, man.
Yes, it was.
Still today.
This one I really like because I like sunsets.
Okay.
And,
Oh, I love that plane. That looks gorgeous against the sun. Oh, wow.
yeah.
Took that in Vancouver in a high-rise apartment because some guy, he was a reverend, totally into cannabis, and this was on his terrace. So the sun was coming up in the morning in Vancouver, and I took this shot and got real lucky.
Boy, you sure did. That is stunning.
Yeah,
that's beautiful. Wow.
Yeah, I like the sunsets.
Yeah.
And I thought this one here. No, where is it? There it is. Okay.
Right.
Just had to find it on the list. Was appropriate. Nicely named as well.
Christy Bowling, she orchestrated this whole thing. I asked Christy for years if she was was a major league smuggler from the late 70s all the way into the 90s. She died at 59 years old. She was a heavy cigarette smoker, but she was a major dealer, and I knew this, and I asked her, pestered her for years. Come on, let me shoot a load. She finally allowed me to do it, and it was a real ordeal because in order to do this, I had to drive the load. Wow. As they said, the story is in my book, but the Mexicans came. I'll tell you real quickly. We drove around all day waiting for the pickup. Finally, they said it was going to be at this, like a Del Taco outside of Phoenix. They would pick it up there. Mexicans show up, and they walk over to the car, and they come back, and they said, if you want to shoot it, you got to drive it. And I said, wow. I said, okay, I'll do it. The car was in the parking lot. The driver was in the whole time. Some kind of like very, very inconspicuous car. So I had to drive that through the suburbs, and they had an automatic garage door where I drove it in, and they said, okay, get ready. And then I just kind of drove right in, closed the door, and shot that in about 15 minutes. So
wow.
Yeah. So like I say, big risks.
Sounds like you were hanging out with the Sopranos. I'd be like wearing my Depends that day.
Pounds though, that was 100 pounds that I shot.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that's for sure, we have really enjoyed this part one of our visit. And I do want to let people know that we're going to be blessed to have Malcolm come back for our next segment. So we do want you to tune in and watch that. And of course, share us with your friends. And I want to thank my joint host as well, Al Byrne and Al Graham, for being part of the big broadcast.
You're welcome.
I'll let them both give a little shout out for what they've been up to. Al Byrne, shout out.
All right, thank you. Author for Country and Cannabis. A lot about what we're talking about. The for country part is my special attention to military veterans of the United States. I'm a Navy vet. Casper's an Army vet, and we pay a lot of attention to those guys and girls. And so I wrote about my 24 years in the Navy and how that use of cannabis within the military played out or didn't, depending on the years and the uses and the people. It's a lot of the authority of the military are not happy with that part of the book. It is not completely complimentary to the generals and admirals of the time, and the time was Vietnam. But the rest of the book is all about how guys like you see on the screen got together and created a momentum to create what we now have as far as legalization, medical cannabis, hemp, etc. Read the book; it's a good one.
It is a great read, and I'll tell you what else is great is if your eyes are too tired to read, but you still want to learn about cannabis and in an entertaining way, you can do that at paceradio.net. Or am I like pushing that too hard there, Al Graham?
No, never pushing too hard on that. No. The Pace Network, find us at paceradio.net. Psychedelics and cannabis education is what we talk about there. And you can find us 7 days a week as another broadcast is released.
And we want to thank you for tuning in to the big broadcast. Don't forget to go to timeforhemp.news. You'll find lots of free downloads, music, podcasts. There's videos there to enjoy. You can get a newsletter if you like. New blogs are posted. And it's all about how important it is to take time for hemp.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they've spent. Take another look and take some time for hemp. Don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Well, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, it's time for hemp. Throughout Earth's history, hemp has been used, no mystery. Hemp was legal to pay your taxes for more than a century. Check your faxes. The founding fathers make sense to me. It's time to grow hemp legally. Think of all its uses, it's money that's well spent. Right now, no excuses, it's time for hemp. Sustainable green industry, that's our intent. A better place this world will be. It's time for hemp. Fuel and food and clothes and soap, housing, cars, yeah, cars, no joke. Henry Ford built a car of hemp. It's time for us to do it again. People be employed with balanced farming as it's meant. Right now, it's time for hemp. Hemp is a true necessity for the wealth and protection of this country. These are words of Jefferson Thomas. He grew hemp, why not us? It's time to lift the hemp band. It's time to lift the hemp band. Yet we can. I know we can make a difference. Yes we can, yes I know we can. And we can work together and lift the hemp band. Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they've spent. Take another look and take some time for him. Don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for him.